Hello and welcome, my name is Hoshiko, and today's Cinematography video is all about building your own cucoloris or cookie lighting modifiers for as cheap as possible. I want to start here, as I often do, with a safety warning that we will be using paper products to make this. And if you have very hot lights, these might not be the best thing for you and you might want to avoid them. Or you will at least need to be very careful to turn your lights off frequently to avoid heating and fire risks. Boards like what we're about to use are often used in filmmaking, but being aware of risks, even if they feel unlikely, is important. Remember that keeping every team member, including yourself, safe is always the priority. Okay, so what is a cookie, or cucoloris, which is their proper name that I totally knew the pronunciation of 10 minutes ago, because I've definitely not just always called them cookies. Well, they are a special type of light modifier that allows you to pass light through some abstract kind of blobby shapes, and on the other side you will get light that is broken up, commonly looking kind of like branches casting shadows. But it doesn't have to be as motivated as that. It can be just to make your light not so homogeneous in its shape. Now, they're also specifically used at a distance from your light, which is a difference between them and gobos, which are, usually right in front of the element. These are a great tool to use when creating window-motivated lighting looks, especially on sound stages where you might want the light to look like it's coming through some foliage outside. However, they're pretty expensive at about $100 to $170 each, and although those are professional versions that are made of wood and have professional attachment points, making them very durable and easy to work with and manipulate, to save money here, we're going to have to sacrifice some of the flexibility and ease of use. But those are the kinds of trade-offs we have to be considering when making budgeting and lighting decisions for micro-budget films. You can make your own that are wooden, and there are some good YouTube tutorials about that process. But I still think that needing to either buy, rent, or borrow the power tools and get the raw materials for it, you're almost better off buying the real thing and having it have the professional attachment points and its durability. And then you also have the bonus of saving the labor time and knowing it's made exactly for your usage. So that's why my option here takes a different, even cheaper route. For this build, we will need some gaffer tape, wood glue, 2 to 3 black 20 by 30 inch film core boards, a box knife or X-Acto knife, and a regular pencil. Assuming that you have the knife, pencil, and gaffer tape already, the supplies come to around $13. If you need the other parts, it will cost you about $35, but the most expensive supply, the gaffer tape at about $18, should last a while. I used black film core boards, but oftentimes the white ones are cheaper still, but they will bounce some light. Dollar stores do sometimes have these materials really cheap, so you can keep that in mind when making your plans. You also need some heavy weights like large books or plate weights, the more the better, and some newspaper or other surface covering to help make sure your surfaces don't get damaged. First, we need to attach our poster boards together, and you can make this with either 2 or 3 of them, but I'm opting for 3 because I like the additional thickness for stability. My main concern with making these is that I want them to be durable enough to be used over and over again. I don't want to spend all this effort and time making one for it to only give me a few days of shooting time. That would make buying the Pro one more valuable and reasonable ultimately. On a surface that you've either protected or don't really care about, take your first poster board and lay it down. Now take your wood glue, and mine here is a Gorilla Glue that has a 150-degree heat rating, which I do prefer because these will be under some heat from our lamps, and apply that glue to the face of the board. Make sure to go about 1 inch in from the edge all the way around, maybe even a few times, so that when we apply our next one, that squishes down and helps seal the edge together. For the middle, I did a grid pattern with a few squirrels through it. We want enough, but not too much glue, which is why the consistently attached edge is very important. This is to make sure that we have good adhesion throughout without making it a big, tough mess to cut through later. Make sure that all of your corners line up as best as possible. Mine weren't cut exactly straight, so it took a little bit of work. And you can even use some gaffer tape to help keep them aligned, because they will float a little bit on top of the glue if you don't. Now we'll take our weights or large books and place them on the corners and the middle. I like to have at least 5 objects that have a large surface area to do this with to try and keep the pressure pretty even and consistent, especially on the edges. Some glue might squeeze out of the sides. If this happens, you can just rub it along the edge so it doesn't go to waste. Lastly, check again to make sure all of your edges and corners are still aligned. You don't want them to have floated. And then we're just going to let it cure for at least 24 hours, but I would say 48 hours would be better. If you're making a few of these at a time, just now move on to your next one. Now that's all set up and stuck together, let's protect the edges. Take the tape and align the center to the center of the edge and fold it onto the front and back faces. This will protect our edges, especially where we'll be grabbing with our clamp, and will make sure that it's just a little more durable. Now it's the creative part. You get to take your pencil and sketch some abstract blobs onto the top face. I took a look at a real cookie to just get a sense of the shapes and the positioning of them. And so some of them are long, some of them are short, some are more of a circle, some are zucchini shaped, some are balloon shaped, and some are just like rounded triangles or splats. None of them are uniform or in a row or a pattern, and you can make them as close or far apart as you want. I will say that if you make them too close to each other though, it will compromise the integrity somewhat, so do be careful. Once you have something that you're happy with, take your box knife or X-Acto knife and cut out the shapes along your lines. And it's a good idea to wear work gloves while doing this, just to protect your hands from cuts if your blade slips, because those razors are sharp. If you mess one up a bit, it just is a new shape. They're all freeform, so it's pretty much just okay. Depending on your blade and skill, you might want to cut through each layer independently and remove them one at a time. If you can see that the glue is still a little wet after this step, take your weights and put them back on once you have all the pieces cut out, and then just let it dry and cure until it's solid.
Woo! Yeah! It's a little dusty. Yeah, so there's some edges you could probably hit with a nail file or some sandpaper if you wanted to really clean them up. I don't know if it's that important to really clean those up though. It did take me 2 hours or so total to cut this out, maybe 2.5. I had a lot of them and I had a lot of pretty intricate ones, so that might be the reason why. Definitely I think an X-Acto knife is a lot more useful than the box cutter. You just get so much more of a fine cut with it. I would say get this, it's like $3 instead of like $1.50. And then maybe get a second blade, because I think by the end, the blade just was not cutting as well anymore. Did take longer than expected, but I kind of put it in between some other work, so you do what you can. But it still saved a lot of actual cash.
And that is it. Having barn doors will help you when using this so that you can cut your light to the exact shape of your cookie and reduce spill. And I position these with a clamp that is attached to a C-stand arm or a light stand, although it's certainly less flexible than the professional mounting option on the professional version, but it works. Now, let's go see what it looks like. So here we have a setup of the GVM SD80D and my DIY cookie. We are using the small hood. I don't know if there's a different term for that. And we are casting it onto our scene. And you can really just see the difference here when we flip this up. It absolutely breaks up that background's shaping a lot, makes the light so much less homogeneous. And it just, I don't know, it adds a certain feeling to it. So now we've switched out the hood for the Fresnel. This is the Aperture 2X Fresnel, and we can now flood and spot it to change the shape of the light going through the cookie. So time for some tests. As you can see, as normal with using the Fresnel in flood, it will be sharper shadows, and when you use it in spot, you get softer shadows. Those softer shadows are going to create much more of an amorphous shape on the background. It will be still once more a little bit more of like a spotlight rather than the patterning of sorts, but it will still be broken up in a way that I think is really visually pleasing, and at least more pleasing than it being completely homogeneous all the way across your backdrop or across your character. Okay, so since our DIY cookie doesn't have an actual attachment point like professional cookies, we have to do some things a little bit differently. So I have right here a reflector holder, and this is from Impact. There's other brands that exist out there. They all work pretty similarly. There's clips, and this pole extends, and you can just do it like this. That is one option here. So then the other good option is to get yourself one of these reflector holder clamps. They're like $8 to $10, Amazon, B&H, wherever you shop, and get that with the peg on it so that you can hold it by using the grip head on your C-stand. So then all you do is just clamp it on like this and position it. Now it will probably sag a little bit. You could use a duck bow clamp for this, but they're more expensive and we're trying to keep this low budget. That would give you the baby pin style mounting accessory though. So, you know, that's obviously potentially worthwhile. And then once you're here, you can now actually just do things like this and manipulate it any which way that you see fit. And like I said, it might slip a little bit, so you have to be a little careful. If you're feeling kind of nervous about that in particular, you can always turn it so that it faces down. When it's down, it seems to be a little bit more sturdy, you know. And then we're looking at something like this. Put your lamp right about here, pass your light through. It works just fine. It's actually pretty similar to how it would be if you had the actual grip head attachment point. I love filming things that resemble paint drying. That's my favorite kind of cinematography. You can see that they're sharper, but they're not as incredibly distinct as with the hood. You can see as it gets really, really close to the light, that's about a foot. And we get further away, different angles, how it really changes shape. So for less than about $15, you can get your very own cookie modifier that will help you break up the light in your scenes. Sadly, this was not a tutorial about delicious baked cookies. My apologies if the title misled you. If you have any questions about making these modifiers for yourself, leave them in the comments down below. And if you want to pick up the supplies to make one of these for yourself, I have affiliate links to all the tools required down in the video's description, as well as a link to my Patreon page where you can join for just $2 to support these kinds of videos and my channel in general. And you can also join my free tier just to be notified when I post new videos. If you like DIY cinematography videos like this one, please give the video a like to help me with the YouTube algorithm and reaching new audiences who also like these kinds of videos. You can also subscribe for upcoming videos about tools and techniques for cinematography, lighting, and micro-budget filmmaking in general. You can find links to my Patreon, Ko-fi, social media pages, and cinematography blog all down in the video's description. And this week, take a moment to expand your cinema horizons by watching something older, of a different genre, or from a different country than the films you normally watch. You never know what amazing films you might find. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of your team, take care of those around you. I hope that you have a wonderful week ahead of you. Peace.